Hey, there's the kitty, there's the dog, and there's the weather. Yeah, we're gonna make this a quick one today. So, yeah, we are out and about. It is National Best Friends Day. Who's your bestie and what are you gonna do for her today? I'm gonna give mine a call because I need to chat. Oh, yeah. Where's the kitty? Where's the kitty? Where's the kitty? Oh my god, she's so cute. Alright, see you in a few. Hey everybody, crafting journey here, and don't I look amazingly comfortable today? Yes. No, that commercial. I swear this was like folded up all nice and neat in the drawer, but it's just, it's just one of those shirts. Um, It fits my mood perfectly today. You saw what the weather's like. It's raining, it's dark. We got just enough time to get out there. The animals got to pee and then we ran back in because, yeah, not a good day. Thunder, lightning, tornadoes. Yeah, you name it. So, first thing this morning, I get an email from Human Resources or from, I don't know, the accommodation specialist at work saying, we can accommodate you where you get 30 minutes rest every 2 hours. You can elevate your leg, but you're going to remain on your hybrid schedule, which means I only work from home 2 days a week. Now, I can't wait to see, and your boss is aware of this. I'm sure she is aware of this. I'm sure it was her idea. I don't know what the big deal is. Why can't I work from home? What is there, you know, it's a proven fact that productivity goes up and employee satisfaction goes up when you let people work from home. So, what's your problem? I don't need to be in that office. I think she's trying to create like this team mentality. I don't work with any of these people. None of these people have anything to do with what I do. They all do credentialing. I don't do anything with credentialing. Anyway, whatever. So, I just have a little bit left. Look, just a little bit left on this diamond painting. The sailboat is done. Look at that sailboat. So pretty. And it is National Best Friends Day. So, it's supposedly as you get older, you don't make as many friends. You stick to the ones you've had since you were younger. But when you're in the YouTube business, you're always making friends, and I have so many. But I gotta say, Mickey Sunshine, girl, you're the best. She and I have created a bond over the last 3 years, and you see us bickering a lot but that's what happens when you love each other. You bicker. She knows which buttons to push for me. I know which ones to push for her. Anyway, isn't that what besties are all about? I mean, they're there when you need them, and she's always there when I need her, and I hope that I fill that role for her as well. So, if you don't have a bestie, go get one. Go make a friend. Call me or DM me. I'll be your bestie. Yeah. Anyway, I have so many good friends. I can't even name them all, honestly. And I would consider them all besties. I just would be heartbroken if they weren't around. So, National Besties Day. I'm just listening to that rain. This is like napping weather. I don't know if I'm gonna make it all day without a nap. Yes, I know that's part of working from home. Yes, I know. I know. So, just as an aside, I have to mention that this is June 8th, 2021. Today is my father's birthday. Now, he passed away in 2014, I think? 2014, I believe. He was 83 years old. Yeah, 2014. 83. It was right before his 84th birthday. I believe that's correct. And I'll put a picture of him here. He was such a sweetheart. I love him to death. He was living in the Philippines when he passed away. And he and his wife, for a long time, they lived in Florida. He was married to a Filipino woman. And I would go over to St. Pete's to visit them a lot. And it got to the point where they just couldn't live alone any longer. They really needed help. And it was so expensive. We looked at assisted living, and oh my God, even back then it was just ridiculously expensive. Yeah, early 2000s. So, I mean, we're talking like $4,000 a month. Expensive. Now, that's in Florida. I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but so they decided to move to the Philippines, packed up everything, and just went to the Philippines. Had it all shipped. They bought a house for $13,000, a nice little house in the Philippines. It had not a lot of yard, but it had a house behind it too that he owned. There was a main house and a guest house, and he hired a driver. He had a cook. He had two live-in maids. Yeah, they had all the help that they needed and could ever ask for. And then they would have this woman. She would come by every morning, and my stepmother Cora, she would give her money, and the woman would go to the market and buy them, fresh bread or whatever they needed. She'd come back, and it was just adorable. So I got the opportunity to go over there when I got the call that I didn't have longer to live. I had to get an emergency passport. Now that was fun. I actually had to I had to pull some strings. I had to get a friend to call a senator and yeah. But I got an emergency passport, 23-hour flight to the Philippines. I mean, oh God, worst flight of my life. 23 hours total. I think there was some plane changes in there. But when I got to the Philippines, my father was still alive, and I got to see him before he passed away. He did pass away very shortly after I got there. I think he was waiting for me. I believe that, I do. He was waiting for me. But, I mean, if you had one best friend in this entire world that you would bring back, God, it would be my dad. Yeah, that would be like if I got one wish, it wouldn't be for $1 million. It would just be to have my dad back. Yeah. I think the best memory I have of him is going to I'm gonna cry. Going to the baseball games. I would go over to St. Pete whenever the Baltimore Orioles were in town. He was a huge Baltimore Orioles fan, and I would go over there, and he was in a wheelchair, so we got handicap seating, which was great. But we would go to all the games, and it was just such a bond that we had over that. So anyway, on to crafting and crime daily. 1 minute. So, my understanding is that there are 2 new trials that are still in jury selection. This is Wednesday. I don't know if either of them will start today. Monday and Tuesday, both of these trials were in jury selection. One I've already described to you on Monday and Tuesday's show. So I'll try to cover them, but the case that I'm covering now is the case of the Mcstay family. Now, yesterday I explained to you how they disappeared, and at the end of my tale, I told you that there was an arrest. Chase Merritt, also known as Charles Merritt. Chase was like his, nickname. So I listened to the opening statements of both the prosecution and the defense, and I was diamond painting. I should be diamond painting now, right? Shouldn't I? Well, yes, Rebecca, you should. Let's see. So I have to tell you, after listening to the openings, especially the defense opening, I was like, I don't think this guy did this. I don't think so. Um, there was. Let me just give you the rundown. This is the case of the Mcstay family murders. It started out as a disappearance on February 4th, 2010. Last time any of his family members were seen. Joseph, the husband, his wife Summer, very young, their 4-year-old and their 3-year-old. 3-year-old was Joe Jr. and the 4-year-old was Gianni. Cutest little boys you'd ever want to see. Really cute. And they just doted on them. Mom had a real estate license, but she stayed home to take care of the kids. Dad had this company, Earth Inspired Products, where he would resell fountains. Now, they were these specialty fountains that you could put in your house, and have that kind of the waterfall effect. But in recent times, he had started part of his business as custom fountains. So he brought on Chase Merritt, who knew how to build the things. So he would design them and Chase would build them for him. Now, they were living in California, but February 4th, we know that Summer called her sister, and was making plans to go visit her and see her new baby. We know that there were phone calls, we know that Joseph went and met up with Chase at the Chick-fil-A that day. Now the question is, what happened at the Chick-fil-A that day? Did he fire Chase? Did he discover Chase was, skimming the books? What happened at the Chick-fil-A that day? We don't know. But these people are never seen again. So people started calling them, and they weren't getting answers from their phone calls. So Joseph's father sends over the police for a wellness check. They say there's no signs of foul play. Nobody answered the door, but no signs of foul play. So they leave. Later on, the brother's like, I gotta find out what's going on with my brother. He's not answering his phone. Nobody's seen or heard from him. So he goes over there with Chase. They go over there together, but Chase won't go in the house. But Chase points out that there's the window in the back that seems like you could get in through that window. The 2 dogs were in the backyard, and this was like the 12th of February. So those dogs had been there for a while. But there was water in their dishes, and there was a big bag of dog food that had been ripped open, and they had eaten the dog food, so they hadn't been starving. So they go in through this window, or the brother does. He goes in through this window, and it literally looks like they just vanished. There's eggs on the counter, like they were making breakfast. There's like rotten bananas. There's 2 bowls of popcorn sitting on a futon. There's fresh paint. They were remodeling their new home that they had just moved into over Thanksgiving. But the paint was open. The brush was not clean. Like somebody just mid-paint got up and walked away. So they called the police. The police investigated, took photographs of everything. There was no signs of any foul play here. And they did find surveillance footage of 4 people crossing over to Mexico that fit the description of this family. And I've seen the video. They do fit the description of this family. The 2 little boys are wearing these beanie caps, and the boys wore these beanie caps all the time. So, was that them? Their car was found parked right there in the parking lot next to the Mexican border. So eventually the police, after months of investigation, they just conclude that, no foul play. They couldn't find these people, but they just said, it looks like they just left on their own accord. That's the only explanation. So fast forward to 2013, November 2013, when a dirt biker 100 miles away in the middle of the Mojave Desert finds a skull. He calls the police. They do a dig. They find two shallow graves. Father and Gianni were in one grave. Summer and Joey Jr. were in the other grave. They were not. They were all determined by the coroner to have died of blunt force trauma. There was a like a 3-pound mallet found in the grave. The only one that couldn't tell how he died was Joey Jr. There wasn't enough of his body left. They were severely decomposed. There were just bones left. I mean, they'd been there 3 years. So the coroner said that they had all suffered blunt force trauma throughout the head and neck. There were broken bones and skull fractures and yeah. So they start investigating Chase Merritt because the day, February 4th, the last day, the day that they were seen, and several days thereafter, he's writing checks out of the QuickBooks account for the business. Now he writes the checks and then he cancels the checks, and the checks are never cashed. So I don't know what the explanation is for that, but of course the prosecution is making it sound like he was skimming money. Now, there's also, we know that he met Joseph on February 4th at the Chick-fil-A. There's a phone call that was supposedly made by Joseph to Chase that evening at 8:38 p.m. However, when Chase's girlfriend gets up on the stand and she says, "Oh yeah, there was a phone call. Joey called, and because the phone was sitting on the kitchen counter and I was in the kitchen, and Chase was over watching TV, and she said, "Why are you going to answer that?" He's like, "Ah, it's just Joe. I'll talk to him tomorrow." So she didn't think anything of it. But when she was on the stand, we find out that she had been coached on what to say. The prosecution brings out not videotape, but audio tape. They bugged, like when she would go to the jail to visit him, they had put up bugs to hear both sides of the conversation, and they played that, and it sounded like he was telling her what to say. So, make sure you tell him that you saw the phone call, Oh my God. And after that, the defense was just so deflated because it kind of ruined their credibility. And let me just back up a little bit here. Before the trial even starts, because they do arrest Chase Merritt finally, they find that they take the vehicle that was parked at the border, they do DNA swabs all over the vehicle, and they find DNA of Chase on the steering wheel. Nowhere else. Now, we don't know how he got in the car without touching anything but the steering wheel. But, so he's arrested and charged with these murders. And there's supposedly loads of this circumstantial evidence. So the defense is so convinced of his innocence that they hire a production company to create a documentary, and they ask the Mcstay family and the prosecution if they want to participate, and they're like, no, we don't want this to be another making of a murderer. We don't want it to look bad. It's going to be all defense oriented. We don't want nothing to do with this. So just before the trial starts, the documentary is purchased by the Discovery Channel, and they hire a completely different production company. And then at that point, the prosecution and the Mcstay family agree to participate in the documentary. And this is where I'm getting a lot of my information from, actually watching the trial, because Law and Crime did cover the trial. This trial lasted 44 days. 44 days. Yeah. well, maybe not 44 days, but there were 44 videos. Let me put it that way, 44 videos. So it lasted a long time, this trial. Um, but like I said, after the defense's opening statement, I just was not convinced that they have the right guy. So, for one thing, the prosecution was saying that the murders took place at their home on February 4th. Now, there's no blood evidence in this house. None. There, if they were bludgeoned to death in the head, first of the head, your head just bleeds like horribly. When you get the slightest little cut on your head, and it's just going to bleed like you're dying. So there would be blood splatter everywhere. Well, where is it? There's no evidence of it. But their contention is it wasn't investigated as a murder. Nobody pulled up the carpet to see, maybe the carpet had been cleaned, and they didn't pull up the carpet to see if there were blood stains underneath of it. Maybe the house was repainted. They got one picture of a coffee table where it looks like there's blood splatters on it. But 3 years later, when they go back and they want to go back into the house has already been sold. The new owners had pulled and ripped up the carpet, and nobody ever called and said, hey, there's a blood stain here, and put in hardwood floors. They took the table that supposedly had blood splatters on it that was never tested for DNA. CSI was called to the stand. She never even noticed it. She's I'm so embarrassed. I didn't notice it, but you're right. That picture, it makes it look like blood splatter. So I must have missed it. But that's the only evidence of 4 people bludgeoned to death in a house. Nothing. So they couldn't get back into this house to investigate as if it was a murder. To do like the testing that they do for blood on the wall. They couldn't do any of that because the house had been sold and remodeled. So there's no physical evidence saying that it happened in that house. And the other thing I was thinking was, how would one guy bludgeon to death 4 people? And there's evidence that Summer was raped. Now, did he have an accomplice? To me, it feels like this had to be more than one person. It had to be. How could one person do all that, clean it all up, haul all those bodies into a truck and nobody notice, and then drive it? Because there's no blood splatters in the trooper. There were no blood splatters in Chase's vehicle either. So what did he use to get them 100 miles away into the desert? And it was raining that night. His shoes would have been all muddy and he would have been all dirty. Where's all that evidence? None. So prosecution is saying on February 4th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Chase's phone goes off the grid. So there's a lot of explanations for that. He could have been in airplane mode. He could have turned his phone off. His battery could have died. We don't know what the explanation is for that. But they're going to want the jury to believe that this is the period of time where he is taking bodies out to the desert. Now, during the investigation, it came out that this Dan Kavanaugh, there's another player in this called Dan Kavanaugh, and he was the webmaster. He was also taking money out of this account. And his girlfriend actually came into the police and said, hey, Dan told me he did this. But she said they didn't. Nobody believed her. They said she was clearly on drugs. Her credibility was terrible. But she had this a whole account of what he told her of how he did it, and they were not buying it. They're like, no. So even the defense said no. Her credibility is just, it's not good. So they figured they'll just put Kavanaugh on the stand. So they go to subpoena him for the trial. And he is gone. They can't find him anywhere. He is just gone. Dan Kavanaugh, gone. Now, during the murders, he claims to have been in Hawaii, and this is why he was cleared, because he was in Hawaii. So I'm going to continue to watch this documentary and see what else happens at this trial. I'll continue to watch the trial as well and keep you guys updated on what evidence comes out against this Chase guy and whether he is found guilty or innocent. That remains to be seen. This day in history, 1984. Where was I in 1984? Okay, my son was 4 years old. Oh, I think I had a baby. I was very pregnant June 8th, 1984, because my daughter was born in July of 1984. So I was 8 months pregnant. But anyway, I digress. Ghostbusters premieres. It's released in theaters across the country. Now it was a comedy directed by Ivan Reitman, and it starred Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Bill Murray. I love Bill Murray. Now the script was originally written by Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, and John Belushi was meant to play in this movie, but apparently we know that he died of an overdose shortly before production started on the movie, so they replaced his part and rewrote the script to include Bill Murray in his place and kind of incorporate Bill Murray's sense of humor. This was a movie about paranormal investigation. Harold Ramis was this professor who was not doing well at his job, so he started this company where they would go out and they'd find ghosts, and they had this vacuum thing where they would they had this Ghostbuster vehicle and these suits. And I mean, if you've never seen the movie, first of all, where have you been? Second of all, you gotta go see it. They're suddenly overwhelmed for a demand for their services, and then Sigourney Weaver, she's in this apartment building, and she's been taken over by these evil spirits and a guy named Gozer. It's just the craziest thing. And then the city tries to outlaw the Ghostbusters thing and makes them release all the ghosts, and so this was a really, really expensive production for a comedy. A lot of money was spent, way more money than is usually spent on something this comedic. But this movie did so well at the box office. They recouped all their money and more. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Do 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 do. Gozer. God, remember that, guys. That's the show for today. Don't forget this afternoon, 6 p.m. Central Time, Craft With Me Wednesday. Maybe I'll be doing some loom knitting. Let's do some loom knitting. What do you think? Yeah. Okay. I'll see you then. Bye, everybody.